Okay, so we can get started. Sneha, do you wanna?
Yeah, so hi guys, welcome to our Python programming classes. This is a 7-week class and we are all a part of the organization Girls Computing League. And yeah, we're excited that you're here. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so here's a little bit about Girls Computing League. The 4 pillars of Girls Computing League are educate, empower, inspire, and change. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded in 2015 to provide an accessible and approachable emerging technology education to all students regardless of gender, race, or socioeconomic status. We hold hackathons, artificial intelligence summits, industry-specific workshops, and coding clubs for students in elementary schools to college. If you are interested in learning more about Girls Computing League, you can go to girlscomputingleague.org. So now we're going to do some introductions for our teachers or mentors for this class. My name is Sneha. I'm a rising senior at Middlesex High School in Middlesex, New Jersey. I have a few years of Python experience through online courses as well as some courses in my school, and have completed courses in Visual Basic as well as AP Computer Science A at my school. Besides computer science, I'm also interested in health science, and in my free time, I enjoy playing tennis and swimming.
Hi guys, so I'm Ashwita Sarabi, and I'm a rising junior at Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in Alexandria, Virginia. And some of my skills in computer science include Python, Java. I also took AP Computer Science like Sneha, MATLAB, Arduino, Robot C, and Computer Vision. So if you guys have any questions about any topics, feel free to ask me. And then I'm also interested in the field computational neuroscience. So that's basically a fusion between computer science and neuroscience. So it's like kind of like in the midway of like bio and CS. And in my free time, I do track and I enjoy playing basketball.
Hi, my name is CJ. I'm a rising sophomore at Jericho Senior High School in Jericho, New York. I have about 2 years of Python programming experience. I'm very interested in the biosciences and data science. And in my free time, I enjoy playing basketball and soccer.
Hi, I'm Anjana. I'm a rising junior at Stonebridge High School in Ashburn, Virginia. I've experience in Python, some HTML, and I've worked with AWS. And I've also learned Java through AP Computer Science, and I love to dance in my free time.
Hi guys, my name is Srijaki Cassetti. I'm a rising senior at Chantilly High School in Virginia. I have 5 years of Python programming experience in Python, Java, and artificial intelligence. And like the others, I've also taken AP Computer Science. And something fun about me is that I like playing the piano in my free time, and I've been playing for about 11 years.
Okay, so we're just going to go over the class schedule real quick. So week 1, which is this week, we're going to be covering an introduction to Python and variables. Week 2, which will be next Saturday, will be expressions, arithmetic, and conditional statements. Week 3 will be loops and an introduction to functions. Week 4 will be writing functions. Week 5 will be objects and lists. Week 6 will be a review of all these concepts. And week 7, you will be presenting your independent projects, which we will talk about further in the next slide.
Okay, so a few things about this class. So first of all, like as you can see, we have many mentors, right? So how it's gonna work is each week there's gonna be a different mentor teaching, but the rest of us will still be here. So if you guys have any questions, you can feel free in the chat to message us privately or publicly, either way works, and then we'll get back to you. So then you can answer your questions as we go through the slides without interrupting the presentation either. So one other thing we're doing is independent projects. So what we're gonna be doing is throughout the duration of the course, like students will be working on an independent project. So you guys can come up with an idea, and we're gonna, I think we already did. So we released an assignment on Google Classroom. So you guys have to submit like an idea for your project, and we'll approve it like if it's feasible or not. And so what's gonna happen is like throughout the course, as you learn new things, you're gonna try to incorporate it into your program to make your idea a reality. So like here are some examples, like a rock, paper, scissors game. Like you can try to play it with your computer. Like your computer emits like a random output, like rock, paper, scissors, and then you do something. So it's like a computerized game, right? A guess the number game kind of works the same way. A Mad Libs program. I'll be showing you guys an example of this one because I made one myself for like Mother's Day. So it's a bit embarrassing. I'll show you guys, so don't judge, okay? And then here are some like requirements that your project must include. Variables, print statements, at least one while loop or for loop, Boolean expressions, and at least one function that will be implemented in your project, and at least one built-in function. And you guys probably don't know this right now, like what these are, but as you go into the course, you'll learn more about them, so you'll be able to add them into your projects. And at the end, everybody will be presenting their project so we can like see what everybody came up with, and it'll be really fun. So you should probably start coming up with ideas now, and you can submit your ideas in the Google Classroom. And make sure everybody joins the Google Classroom. In the email that we sent out, we also sent out a code for the Google Classroom. And I think there's only like around 30 people joining right now. So like, I think most of you should still join. So then you guys can get all the updates and assignments. So before we start, let me show you the Mad Libs program. 1 second. Can you guys see my screen still? Okay. So like, see, this is like just a sample Mad Libs program. So I don't want you guys to see like the actual code right now, but let me show you like how it runs. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna run it. And this is not the application you guys are using. So this is like another IDE, but ignore that. So if you want to start, I'll just enter like Y for yes. So enter an adjective ending in EST. We can just like enter like smartest. And then enter an adjective, fast. And it just keeps on going. And at the end, it basically just gives out an output. Like it just works in the same way as a Mad Lib. So it just gives out an output with all the sentences, with these words inserted in. So it becomes like really funny. I'm not going to show that to you guys right now, but you guys get the idea, right? So that's basically what we're going to aim for in this class. So at the end, you guys will come up with the nice project that you guys can do with the stuff you learned. Okay, so now we can continue. Sneha, you got it?
Yeah. So first we have part 1A will be an introduction to computer programming. Oh wait, let me just share my screen. Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so part 1A, an introduction to computer programming. Also, before I get into this, we are going to post a note sheet with all of this information on the Google Classroom, like the most important points. So if you want, you can take notes. You don't have to. Everything will be in the Google Classroom, and we'll probably be posting this presentation itself on the Google Classroom. Okay, so programs make computers usable. Without programs, computers are nothing more than objects. Just like a piano without a player, a computer without a program is useless. Programmers have to instruct the computer to perform very basic tasks. Some things we instruct computers to do are to accept a number, to divide two numbers, and to display the results of calculation. So these are very basic tasks, similar to what a calculator might do. Since the computer does not understand the language we speak, how can we translate these commands into a language that the computer does understand? And we do that by using programming languages. So computer languages or programming languages are a way of expressing and recording thoughts. Computers have their own language called machine language, and just how the alphabet is made up of letters, machine language is made up of a set of commands called an instruction list, or IL. So we have our own language, which we can just say most of us speak English, and the computers speak machine language. So we can't go straight from English to machine language. We need an intermediate language, or like a bridge between the two. And these are what we are familiar with. You guys might be familiar with some of these. They're called high-level programming languages. So some examples of these languages are C++, JavaScript, and Python, which we'll be learning in this class. And yeah, these languages act as a bridge between our language and the computer's language. Okay, part 1B, background information on Python. Okay, so Python. Python is a general purpose programming language that was released in 1991. Python was created by Guido van Rossum, who originates from the Netherlands, and that's a picture of him. Python is the third most popular programming language in the world due to its trustworthy nature. Here are some applications of Python. Python is used to help create search engines, for example, Google and Bing. You all might be very familiar with those. Python is also used to help create cloud storage, social media, and more. And in recent years, many scientists have abandoned other forms of programming and switched to Python because of its ease and efficiency. Okay, so part 2A, print statements. Now, you guys might want to open a Replit tab if you haven't already, because we're going to be doing some practice in Replit. Okay, so print statements. When we want to display something, we use the print function. We use parentheses and quotes around the statement we want to display. Okay, so I'm going to switch my tab over to Replit. And in case you guys are unfamiliar with Replit, I'm just going to show you how it's done. So I'm going to create a new Replit. So I'm going to press this little blue box, it says new REPL, and I'm going to press, for language, I'm going to press Python. And for the name, I'm going to call it practice print statements. And then I'm going to press create. Okay. So the first example we have was print hello world. So I'm going to just go back to my code and just type that exactly how it's written here, and let's see what it does. So I have print hello world. And then I'm going to press run. And in my output box, I have hello world. So basically the print function, when you want to output a certain phrase or a word, you have to enclose it in double quotes. That's how the print function will understand to output the phrase you want. And the next example was print hello world. And then I'm going to do another print statement directly below that, print here I am. And I'm just going to comment out the first example just so you guys don't get confused. A comment is basically, we'll go into that more later, but I'm essentially just going to erase the line, but it's still here, but it's not going to show up in the output. So also, if I'm going too fast or anything, just like say something in the chat, or you can turn on your mic if you guys have any questions. Okay, so we have two print statements, so I'm just going to press run. And here we have hello world, and directly on the next line, here I am. So basically, when you write two print statements back to back, the second print statement automatically begins on a new line. As we saw in our example, it directly begins on the new line, the second word, just how I wrote the second print statement on the second line, the second phrase goes directly on. So it automatically creates a new line when you write two print statements. So this is one way you can create a new line, but there are also a few other ways you can create a new line, which we will get into in a second. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next tab. Okay, although each print statement begins on a new line, there are a few other ways to create a new line. So we're going to test these, number 3 and number 4. So I'm just going to go back to my code, and I'm going to comment these lines out. You guys don't have to comment your lines out, but I'm just doing it so we can just see one example at a time. And I'm going to print hello world.
And as you guys can see, like to comment, she uses like a hash bar. So like that's like shift 3. That's how you comment like single lines. But we'll get into that later. You understand?
Okay, so in this example, it's very similar to the second example. It's still saying hello world, here I am, but in the middle of these two lines, I put an empty print function. So this will just create a new line in the code. As we can see when I run it, you get a space between the two lines. So that is one way to create a new line, but it's like one example of creating a new line if you wanted to do that. Okay, so yes, that's what it is. And then the next one we have print hello, and it's like a backslash and how are you? Now it might look a little funny, but we'll see what it does when we run it. So I'm just gonna once again comment this out. And I'm gonna type print hello. Okay, so as you can see, this \n, this is called a new line character, and it's used to create like spaces in the code. Like if you want to create a new line in the middle of a phrase, you can use that character. So let's see what it looks like when I run it. Right, so when I run it, instead of printing hello, comma, how are you all in the same line, so I put the new line character directly after the comma. So that's like a break. It tells the computer to enter a new line. So right under it, I have hello, how are you? So this, another thing to keep in mind with the new line character, if you were to accidentally like maybe put a space here between the new line character and the how, and maybe like a space here, your output would look a little different. So you see how it's just slightly different, but there's another space here. So just be careful when you are using the new line character and just don't add any extra spaces. Like no spaces here, and it's all. Does anybody have any questions, or is this making sense to everybody? Okay, I'm going to go on. Okay, so next we have variables in Python. Also, if I'm going too fast or anything, just let me know. In programming, variables are containers for storing data values. The variable x is often used in math. You may have, if you guys have taken an algebra class or basically any kind of math class, you probably have used variables like x, y. The most common one is x. There are 4 variables in Python. We have integers, which are like whole numbers. It can be 1, 5, 6. Floats, which are decimals, so like 5.2, 2.4, something like that. A string, which is what we were outputting in our previous examples, like the phrase hello, how are you, like in quotes, that's a string. And Boolean, which is just true or false. But before we learn how to use these variables, we need to learn how to name them. So Python has specific naming conventions for variables, and it's important to understand that before we move on to like more advanced topics. Okay, so naming variables. When naming your variables, it is very important to follow these 4 rules. All variables must start with the letter or the underscore character. Variable names cannot start with a number. Variable names can only contain letters, numbers, and underscores. Variable names are case sensitive. So example, new var, and new var are all different variables because they all have different capitalizations. So just be careful with that, and just be careful that Python is case sensitive. Okay, so here are some examples of good variable names. And here are some examples of bad variable names. So as you can see, like in the bad variable names, the first one starts with the letter, which you can't do. The second one has a hashtag and an exclamation point, which are not allowed. And like there's like illegal dashes. So just be aware that you can't just name your variables anything, and it's more important to like give them a good name. And like in the good examples, you see that there's like underscores, and like okay, so another thing I wanted to mention was camel case. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's a common convention that a lot of programmers.
I think go like a little bit slower. People are asking first. Go a bit slower. So.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, yeah. I'm just gonna give you guys a minute to catch up if you're just looking at it. I'll start in like a minute. Okay, so yeah, so basically I'm just gonna go over it again. All variables must start with a letter or an underscore character. So variables cannot start with a number. Variable names can only contain letters, numbers, and underscores. And variable names are case sensitive. So yeah, so as like maybe you guys can try like in your own head or to just think of why this would be a good variable name on the good side and why it would be a bad variable name on the bad side with the rules here. It may help you just to understand, and so you can see how you will eventually program your own variables and come up with your own names. And I was going to talk about a little bit about camel case. If you guys may or may not know that, it's a convention that a lot of programmers use, and all of this is going to be in the note sheet. So just like keep that in mind. So camel case is like when for example, number 1 in good variable names, it says new var, so the first letter of the first word is lowercase, and the first letter of the second word is uppercase. So that's called camel case. It just makes the code easy to read, easy to see. Oh, and if you want to like keep your code neat and have it all look the same way, you could use camel case. It's not necessary though. It's just something that I wanted to mention. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Okay, so here's some practice problems. If you guys want to just type in the chat for number 1, do you think this is a correct variable name? Just put yes or no. And everyone can just take a minute to do that. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. That's good. Okay, if you said yes, you are correct. This is a correct variable name because it begins with the underscore, so that's all right. It works. It follows the rules. For number 2, can you guys tell me if this is a correct variable name? Okay, a lot of you are saying yes, that's correct. You guys are correct. Good job. So although this variable name doesn't use camel case, it still works because there's no rule against starting a variable name with a capital letter. So that's fine, you can do that. And for number 3, is that a correct variable? Okay, a lot of you are saying no, which is correct. You guys are right. Does anybody know why it's not correct? Okay, a lot of you are saying because of the at symbol, and you are correct. You cannot have any at symbols or exclamation points or anything in your variable, so good job, guys. You are understanding that. Okay, am I good to move on? Is everybody okay? Does anybody have any questions or anything? Is this making sense? Okay, I'm gonna move on. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the practice problems. So in order to use variables, we need to assign them a value. Just like if you had a variable in math, like you need to give it a value in order to like use it and manipulate it. So as I previously mentioned, there are 4 types of variables: integers, floats, strings, and booleans. But for right now, we're just going to focus on integers, floats, and strings. So I'm going to go back to Replit and I'm going to open a new Replit. I'm going to press new REPL and press Python and call it practice variables. You guys can name your replets whatever you want. I would suggest making it a name that is like easy to access if you want to look back on it. Okay, so let's see what our first example was. Our first example was new int equals 5 and print new int. So I'm going to go back and type that out. Okay, yeah, so this is all what I want to, somebody asked if we need to have the word new and the word float or int when you're creating a variable. You don't. I'm just doing that for like just for ease. If you guys are new, it might be easier to understand. You don't have to put new int. You don't have to say when, okay, so if you were going to declare an integer, you do not have to say, you do not have to put the keyword int in front of it. I know a lot of programming languages like Java, you do have to declare what type of variable it is, but you do not have to do that for Python. So instead of new int, if I wanted to say like like yellow dog, it's fine. Like it's the same, it's the same name. Like as long as it's the correct variable conventions, like the correct naming conventions, you can name it whatever you want. You do not have to declare new or int or anything. You can just put whatever name you want. But for right now, I'm just going to put new int so it's a little bit easier to understand. Okay, so new int, and I'm just gonna output that. So print new int, and let's see what that does. Okay, so I declared a variable in the line number 1, and I outputted that variable in line number 2. So I got 5, and just so you guys can see that it can be like anything. You can name it anything. I'm just gonna call this like red, and like change that, and it should have the same output. Okay, see, so like it doesn't have to have new or int. That could be a little confusing at first. You can name it whatever you want. If you guys want to put it, this is just like for ease. If you guys just want to do it right now, just call it an int so you are more like aware, and like it might be easier for you to read. Okay, I'm gonna go on to the next example. And the next example is similar to the first one. It says new float equals 5.5, and I'm going to print the new float. And just, I'm going to say it again because I don't know if you guys are like, it might be confusing. You don't have to say new or float. I'm just saying it right now so it's easier for you guys. Okay, I'm just going to comment these lines out. And then I'm going to run this. And I got 5.5 in the output box. So basically I just declared a new variable. I set it to a float value, so the computer automatically knows that it's a float, which is a decimal. And then I just outprinted that same variable. Okay. Am I good to move on? Does this make sense? Okay, I'm gonna move on. Okay, so now we're gonna go to example 3, which has a little bit more code. So example 3 says new string equals my favorite number is, and then new int equals 7, and then print new string plus new int. So also, you guys don't have to keep commenting this out. I'm just doing it so we can just see one example at a time. Okay, so I'm just gonna run this and see what I get. Okay, so I got an error, which was on purpose. I wanted you guys to see that this code does not work. And if anyone wants to guess why this doesn't work, you are welcome to, but I'm just gonna tell you because I wanted to explain this. So basically, new string and new int are two different types of variables. This new string is a string, and new int is an int, so you can't combine or add. Essentially, it's called concatenating, which is a big word, I know, but it's called like combining essentially two variables. You cannot do that. You can only combine two variables of the same type. So for example, if I were to this is why that doesn't work, because I'm combining a string with the integer. You can't do that, it doesn't work. So if I wanted to change it so it would work, maybe I would convert new int to a string, and by doing that, you can convert a new int to a string by just putting quotes around the 7, and that automatically turns into a string. So I'm just going to run that, and it does work because I'm combining two strings instead of a string and an integer. So yeah, this is the way you would write it correctly if you wanted to do it, if you wanted to do this. Yeah, so does that make sense to everyone? Is that like easy to understand? If it's not, then just like let me know. I can explain it more. Okay. Just let me know, like one of the other mentors, if there's any questions about that. I'm just gonna go on to the next slide. Okay, yeah, so this, you can only add other strings to other strings, and ints to other ints, which is why that code specifically did not work. Okay, so we have some more practice problems. You guys may be getting sick of the practice problems, but this is the last page of practice problems. Okay, so this one we have first string equals hello, second string equals world, and we're gonna print these two strings. So I would suggest making the variable name something easy and like not too like, I wouldn't like name your variable name something random like dog or cat or like something just like totally arbitrary. Like you want to try to make it something that fits what you're doing. So like first string, second string, it's just easier to read and easier to remember, and it's like it'll be less confusing, especially if you're just starting out. But then again, like you don't have to. This is just it's just a suggestion basically. Okay, so I'm going to print the first string plus second string. And while I comment these lines out, do you guys think that this code will work? Like based on what we saw in the last example, do you think that this example will work, or will there be an error?
I think it might work.
You're right. That's good. It'll probably work. Let's see what happens. Okay, it works. I have no error, and I have hello and world. And there's no space in the middle, so I forgot to put a space, so I'm just gonna put a space there. And yep, okay, so that works because I'm combining two strings, and you can do that, that's okay. You just can't combine a string and an integer together. Okay, I'm going to the next example. Okay, so the next example we're going to be doing a little bit more with integers. So it says x equals 5, y equals 7, print the sum is, and print x plus y. So I'm going to go back. And notice how I didn't put new int for either of these. I just called it x and y. It'll work just the same as if you were to write new int or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to run this.
I have a question. For the print x plus y, should there be a space between the x and the plus and the y and the plus and the y?
You don't have to put a space. It will work the same, I think. We can just, we can see what it does if we do put a space. I'm pretty sure it would not change anything.
Oh, no, I mean like between the
Space
plus and the
where,
x
like,
and the plus and the y.
Oh, between the x and the plus and the y? You don't have to. I mean, we can see what it does. It doesn't do anything. It's the same thing. So, I mean, if you want to do that, if it looks nicer for you, you're totally welcome to do that, but it's the same thing. Okay, so yeah, so in this example, I added two variables together, but both of these variables were integers, so it works, and it gives me the sum of these two variables. So that's how you can, that's we're going to get into more of like math operations next week with this, but this is just like a basic example that you can combine and add to integers to get a sum. And yeah, so does that make sense? Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna move on. This is the last example. So this one may look a little funny. It says A, comma, B, comma, C, comma, D, and then hello, comma, how, comma, R, comma, U. And then I'm gonna print A plus B plus C plus D. Okay, so let's see what that does. Okay, so, okay, yeah, let me just run this and see if it works. Okay, so it does work. It says, hello, how are you? I forgot to put spaces, so that's another thing to keep in mind. If you're writing a phrase, you want to make sure to add spaces so it reads properly. So I'm just going to add a space after hello, a space after how, and a space after R. Oh, I forgot to put the question mark. Okay, so oh, okay, yeah, there we go. It says, hello, how are you with spaces? Okay, so this is a little more complicated. So basically, I declared 4 variables on the same line. And then I printed all these 4 variables. I added them all, like combined them essentially together, and I printed them. So basically, that's a thing in Python you can do. You can declare variables on the same line, like multiple variables, but the only thing is they have to be of the same type. So you can't put, like, for example, if I wanted to put a 1 here instead of hello and like a 5.5 here. So it doesn't work because that wouldn't work at all, because this is an integer, this is a string, this is a float. Those are all different variable types. So all of these will have to either be integers, they would either have to be variable, would all have to be integers, all have to be strings, all have to be floats. It has to be of the same type. This is a very simple, it's a more convenient way of writing a bunch of variables on this, like, you have to declare like a bunch of string variables. You can do them all on the same line. It can be very convenient. Yeah, so basically you would just have to, this is the syntax for doing that. You would just put the variable names on one side and separate them with commas on the left side. And then you would just put equal and write what you are setting each variable to. So basically, instead of writing A equals hello, like I could write A equals hello, and then B equals how, and like so on. But instead of doing that and just like wasting a bunch of lines of code, I just put it all in the same line.
I have a question. For the A, B, C, D equals hello, how are you? What are the commas in between the words?
So the commas are just to separate each word. So it indicates that, like, you're setting the variable A to the word hello. You're setting the variable B to the word how. It's just how you write the code when you assign multiple variables. So you need to put commas so it separates the words from each other. If you wanted to, you could put multiple words. Like if I wanted to put hello, my name is, like, I can put multiple words in each phrase. You just have to separate each block of double quotes with a comma.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Any other questions? Someone asked if you can add a comma after hello. You can do that. And this is how the code would look if I did that. yeah, so I just have another space there. So basically whatever you enclose inside of the double quotes, you will see on the output box. So the commas that separate the hello from the how, that comma, this comma is not inside the double quotes, so you don't see it in the output, if that makes sense. Like, but since I put this comma inside the double quotes, I do see it in the output. So you have to be very careful, like with that. Just remember that whatever you want to see, whatever you want like to see on the output, you need to enclose it in double quotes for strings especially. Okay, so is that anybody else have any other questions or anything else at all? Because this is our last example. That's all we have for this week, I guess, guys. So we're about to wrap it up. Any last minute questions, anything? Okay, yeah, so somebody asked if the PowerPoints are going to be on Google Classroom. Yes. After this class is over, I will be posting this week one presentation along with a note sheet, and there's going to be a quick homework assignment, and it's just like 6 questions. It's super easy. I would suggest doing it just to refresh your skills. It's not going to be due until next Saturday, so you guys have a lot of time to do that.